How's it going, everybody? This is Joey of Underage Packers. I'm one of your co-hosts today. Joining me, as usual, as typically, is Big B. How you doing today, Big B? It's been
Doing well. How's it
doing
going?
well. It's been a wild week, chaotic week. I hope you enjoyed your time off of Twitter. But today, joining us, it's we're not going to be ending the week off with a stress-free Packers win. But we have a week of relax and get to enjoy football. So joining us to preview that stress-free week of football is Maggie Loney. How you doing today, Maggie?
I'm good. I'm just glad you didn't say you had to be on your best behavior, honestly.
I forgot about that. I think we're out of
Ah,
that era. We moved on. But the joke lives on still. So let's start off. I have these thoughts. The past few weeks, baby, we've been going on without a script, and most of the ideas I get is really just stuff I think about at my bedside when I'm struggling to fall asleep. So one of those things I was thinking about last night was last year, when we did our Instagram live streams, I said, after the Packers clinched the first round bye after week 17, I said, I will be happy if this Packers season ends off with a win in the divisional round and at least a competitive game in the NFC Championship game, just because it far exceeded my expectations. I didn't expect us to get anywhere near a first round bye. I even thought there's a chance we wouldn't make the playoffs. This year, I'm having different thoughts. Big B, would you say, because I wouldn't necessarily say this is Super Bowl or bust, but how important to you, if this season doesn't end in a Super Bowl win for the Packers, how disappointed will you be? And what would you say is your goal for the Packers?
all right. I have thought of this
Hmm.
um past couple days for some weird reason.
Yep.
But if we get to the Super Bowl, we
Hmm.
play the Super Bowl, we lose the Super Bowl. I will be very sad,
Hmm.
but I will be happy. All right. I will be like, I'm proud of this team. We
Hmm.
did a thing. Next year, let's go win it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I don't think you're getting any higher level of play from Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career. You cannot waste that. You have extremely well talent on the defense for the first time in a while. You have a lot of guys with upcoming contracts, so you have to go and win it all. Maggie, what would you say is your predetermined goal where you would look back on this team? Every year the goal is to win a Super Bowl. 5 years from now, what needs to happen for you to be very proud of this team?
I mean, I think given the situation that we're in right now as a country and I guess globally dealing with a
Mhm.
pandemic, a lot of us were kind of unsure if we'd even have football this season. So the
Yeah.
fact that the Packers played a full season and are the number one seed feels pretty special in and of itself. And we'll probably remember this season for much of that before we think about anything else. But
Mhm.
I genuinely feel like this is the closest the Packers have gotten to a potential Super Bowl in a very long time. And I think in 5 years, if they don't make the Super Bowl, we'll look at this year kind of like we did in 2014, where it feels like that was a team that could have gone all the way. So if they don't, it'll be upsetting for that reason.
Yeah, and especially, like I mentioned, you're getting another MVP year from Aaron Rodgers. Then Matt LaFleur coming in here going 26-6 in his first few years. I mean, there's not some exciting draft talent that we have to develop like we had uh, in this past off season of Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage waiting for them to come on. I think this is a year you have to it's going to be very big, and it's one of your best chances, not only from the past 10 years in Aaron Rodgers' career, but going down the line. I don't think you're going to have a much better chance of this until you find out what you have with Jordan Love, and then we can make that determination. Let's talk a little bit about this defense. They ranked ninth in total yards allowed per game. Now, you can use what metric you want. They were 13th in scoring, so it's total points allowed per game. But Big B, would you say that ninth ranking is? Would you say the Packers as a whole are a top 10 defense in the league?
Shoot, I don't even know at this point with this defense, but yeah, top 10 defense. Let's go.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, a great summarization of the Packers defense I saw was, if you just go away, grab a Dr. Pepper, grab a spotted cow, in the middle of it. If you go away for a little bit, there you go. If you don't pay attention to it, but you come back and you just look at the box score, it's a phenomenal defense. There's just so many inconsistencies. There's third downs blown by Mike Pettin's 7 yards off coverage. But Maggie, as an overall overview of this Packers defense that has gotten some turnovers, has had some big players step up. Your favorite Za'Darius, how would you, how would you describe this Packers defense?
I think that right now we're seeing really complementary football from the defense and the offense. And part of that is the offense running up the score, and then the defense doesn't ever have to play from behind. And I think that's kind of the Mike Pettin way. So when you eliminate the run game, which tends to be the way that this defense struggles, and you have to lean to the passing attack, we've seen that's a strength in the Packers secondary. So I think it was Deshaun Watson. There was only one quarterback all season that threw for over 300 yards against the secondary. Yeah. So, I think that's part of it, is not ever really having to play from behind and get a stop on defense and just letting them play freely.
Yeah, Mike Pettin's whole philosophy, his religion is, you might be able to get a touchdown, but you're going to have to go 10 minutes doing it. You're going to have 50 plays on one drive to get that. So when the offense isn't necessarily relying on the defense to get a stop, so they have another opportunity, it frees it up a lot more and it makes it look a lot better. The fact that they have a big lead, so the opposing offense is going to have to throw. They're going to have to score quick. They're going to have to keep pace with this Packers offense. Let's talk a little bit now about the other teams in the NFC playoffs here. Obviously, playing the lowest seed remaining might not work out too well for the Packers this year, considering the Bucs were neck and neck with the Saints all year, so they get that first wild card spot. So it's looking like a very good opportunity, barring any upsets from Los Angeles or Chicago, that Tampa Bay will be coming to Green Bay. Now, Big B, is this, because you look at the other possible teams the Packers could face, it would be the Bears, the Rams, or Washington or Tampa Bay. Do the Buccaneers exceedingly stand out to you amongst those teams?
Yes, because I want to kick their ass. I want to kick their ass so bad. Man. I want them in Lambeau, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Lambeau Field. Like, come on now.
I would love it. I'm not sure if I love your use of language. Hopefully that doesn't cost you a job.
Care.
Okay, well,
I don't care.
As long as people don't look at your Twitter feed during games, maybe you might be able to pass by in a few
probably
years.
Shouldn't do that, but
yeah. All right, so I think the biggest, scariest thing about that Buccaneers team right now is just the way they played Green Bay earlier in the season, 38-10, and that was really just an overall terrible performance. Maggie, how different do you think of, maybe not just the game plan, but how different do you think the outcome of a Tampa Bay Packers rematch is if they have to end up playing next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like PTSD that Packers fans will have, all things considered, because of what happened in 2019 with the 49ers and, an abysmal loss followed by an abysmal loss in the championship game. So if they do come for the divisional round, I think there's a lot of different factors. You have the weather. We're not sure. It sounds like Mike Evans is good to go. Devin White should be back for their defense. But I think the Packers offense was still kind of finding its way in the beginning of the season. The defense looks holistically different. So I think we're seeing a much improved Packers team. And the Bucs have looked good. Tom Brady's looked really good the last couple of weeks, but I think that there will be a better game plan for them in this matchup if it were to happen again. And I really hope it's like a blizzard if Tom Brady does get to come to Lambeau.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing, the weather. That's, it just feels so good to have that first seed, especially now when there's only one first round bye. Because last year, we're lucky to be in a situation unlike last year, where we were rooting for Minnesota to beat San Fran so we could host a championship game. And I think the biggest thing with that is quarterback play. And mostly because Aaron Rodgers has shown time and time again, the weather doesn't affect him. I mean, he plays best in December and January. And then you look at some of these other NFC quarterbacks, Drew Brees, who is pretty much famous for not being able to play in cold weather. He plays in the dome all year. Tom Brady, who played all his years in Tampa, but the rest of that team, is not used to the cold weather at all. You know, you got Mitch Trubisky, who sucks if it's 70 degrees or 90 degrees. I don't see a quarterback that plays exceeding well, certainly not to the level of Aaron Rodgers. Big B, do you think there's a quarterback in the NFC playoffs right now that could, you know, maybe not be completely, they're not going to be star power. Obviously, weather has impact either way. But do you think there's any quarterback that can power through that and still have a big part in their offense where they don't have to resort fully to the running game?
I'm debating on saying Alex Smith.
That's an interesting.
Think of.
Yeah. I mean, they have a pretty good running game over there in Antonio Gibson. I think that would be a really interesting match with Rodgers and Smith. We'll see if they can pull a victory out of Tampa, and then they'll have to. It will be quite the upset if they can get 2 in a row. But that would be a really interesting match with Alex Smith. Let's talk a little bit now. A lot of who's the most favorable match, who's the least favorable match. Maggie, is there a team that sticks out to you that really matches up very well for Green Bay?
I mean, I think Big B kind of said it. Like, as fun as it would be for Washington to pull off the upset against Tampa Bay, you know, the Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers narrative is always fun. And now that he's back as an NFC contender instead of, you know, his time with the Chiefs, that could be a possibility. And, you know, their defense is really good. Their front seven is scary. Chase Young getting after Aaron Rodgers without David Bakhtiari is kind of a concern. But I think, you know, if the Packers can put up points, I don't see that Washington offense being able to hang with this Packers team. And I kind of feel the same way about the Rams, depending on Jared Goff coming back from his thumb surgery. You know, Seattle puts up a ton of points. They're always kind of scary. Tom Brady, you know, he played in Foxborough. He's been there won 6 Super Bowls, been to more. Yeah. So he's always a contender. I think Russell Wilson could lead the offense to something magical from Seattle. So yeah, definitely either the Rams or Washington.
Yeah, the Washington football team, I'll be rooting for them, that's for sure. Rams, it's going to be really tough for them going up against Seattle. But yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting quarterbacks, you know, not really one team besides Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if Jared Goff ends up as a backup in a few years. All their QBs are pretty good. Big B, who would you say is, you know, I think the only team that's beaten the Packers is the Packers. But who is your team that you say the Packers, who's your biggest threat to the Packers getting their 5th Lombardi trophy?
Nobody. But if I have to pick a team, because I know you're going to yell at me after this, I guess I'll go with Seattle.
Okay. You sound like my brother there. But yeah, Seattle is a really interesting team. Russell Wilson, who has never won at Lambeau, but I think they're a much different team than they were last year coming into Green Bay for the divisional round. They made a big move with Carlos Dunlap. And, you know, just a few years ago with the Legion of Boom, they were, you know, they were built off their defense, and they had Russell Wilson do what he could on offense. And now they're mainly built on their offense with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. I would say my biggest threat to the Packers is Tampa Bay. Maggie, who is your team that you're pretty scared of coming into Lambeau?
I do kind of echo your point earlier that I think the Packers are the team that beats themselves. And I don't know if I necessarily see an NFC team standing in their way. I think the AFC is what I'm more concerned about. So that actual Super Bowl matchup. But I think to me, it would be the Saints just because, you know, it was a really good game the first time around. They didn't have Michael Thomas. The Packers didn't have Devontae Adams. Their defense has still improved. Drew Brees in the cold doesn't necessarily scare me. They might almost be better off with Taysom Hill at that point. But they still have a ton of weapons. And if Alvin Kamara comes back, we saw what he did against the middle of the defense the first time around. So I don't know if I love that if the weather isn't a blizzard.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara. I mean, the craziest thing to me was, I mean, he had 150 total purpose yards even after losing. We just got to hope if Sean Payton ends up in an NFC Championship game against Green Bay, he makes sure to resort to that Taysom Hill halfback dive at the end of it. But Big B, looking at this Packers team, what would you say is, you know, this is something I've been focused on solely these past few weeks, is their identity. What would you say is the identity of the 2020 Packers going into playoffs? If you had to give a crime report to any of these NFC teams coming here to Lambeau Field, what would your crime report be for the Green Bay Packers in 2020?
I'm not good with all this crime report stuff. Did this in school once and I failed. Shoot. I don't know. You got me with the crime report thing.
Okay, forget the analogy. What is the identity? What is this team? What does a typical Packers game look like?
Aaron Rodgers balling out and the defense clutching it out at the end.
Yes, the last few weeks. Yeah, that's good enough. The last few weeks especially, the defense has really stepped up. I would say the identity is Aaron Rodgers is going to put some points on you. There's really no way to defend that. And you just got to keep up pace with them and hope your defense gets an interception or two. And I mean, the Bears had that opportunity last week, and they dropped some interceptions there. Maggie, what would your crime report for that analogy be of the 2020 Packers?
I mean, I think that they're a much more resilient team than we saw in 2019. There were plenty of games last year, everybody called them a fraudulent 13-3 team, where it felt like maybe it was one score away from going the other way and the Packers losing. And I think this year we're seeing them win a lot more convincingly. And outside of the Tampa Bay game against the Vikings, the Colts, even when they were down, we saw them kind of battle till the very end. And they've also won convincingly, but we've seen a more resilient team that doesn't necessarily roll over like they maybe did last year.
Yeah, I asked Big Me this plenty of times, so I'm not going to ask him again. But Maggie, I will ask you. The 2010 Packers team thrived on these players that stepped up at just the right time. James Stark having a big run in the playoffs. Who would you say? I guess there's really not too much science you can go off of. But is there a player you have your eye on that you think could be a big part and that could take a big step up in these final 3 games?
I mean, I think we're kind of seeing it happen right now with Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage. I think the two of them, it'd be really fun to see Snacks with fresh legs. He had said something on Twitter about how he was finally feeling good and ready to play again, and then Seattle released him. So he probably will bring a different dynamic. And how about Dominique Daphne? We'll go with him for offense because he's just he's out there.
I love it. The big thing.
Love that.
Dominic, when he scored that touchdown, Daphne, everybody was like, "Who is this kid?" But I had to take a step back because me and Big B, I get my news from Big B's Instagram, by the way, but I had to take a step back because I've known this guy for 5 weeks. I was like, oh, that's the guy from Indiana State that they signed to the practice squad a few weeks back. They promoted him 1 week elevation a few weeks ago. So I had to take a step back and realize not everybody's paying attention to that. But Big B, Dominique Daphne, let's hear it. Score prediction. How many over or under 2 touchdowns for Dominique Daphne in the playoffs?
We're going to go over with 10 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
Dominique Daphne, baby.
I've never even heard you have that much of an exaggeration for a Jamal Williams stat line.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we might need to get you a Dominique Daphne jersey right now.
I know. I'm thinking about it. I am thinking.
Get on the custom jersey pro shop right now.
Yeah.
Let's end it off here with 2 questions. And then maybe we'll do some wild card round predictions. But Maggie, this Packers team, you gave us your crime report, but what is their strength, their biggest strength, and what is their biggest weakness where a team could take advantage of them?
I think their biggest strength for sure is the explosiveness of the offense and the fact that we've seen them either score quickly to get back into things or have really long sustained drives that kind of put games away. The Aaron Jones 77 whatever yard touchdown kind of reminds me of that, where they can either answer quickly or they have sustained success to kill the clock and keep their defense rested. And I guess I think the weakness then would be if the defense gives up a couple scores early and they have to kind of play from behind. And, we saw that possibility against the Bears after that really short field situation, giving up a touchdown on the opening possession. Took the Packers a little bit of time to get their rhythm, but they did get it back. So I think, if a team can use kind of the Packers strategy against them, where they go up early against the Packers and force them to get creative on offense, that could be a way to kind of answer that.
Big B, what would you say is your strength and weakness of the Packers?
Well, I got to go with the offense because that's very simple.
Just the offense as a whole, yeah.
Just the offense as a whole. Like, everybody is just the strength. Even Jamal Williams. and Dominique Daphne, who are the goats. And then the weakness, probably the special teams.
Yeah.
Minus Crosby.
Yeah, I mean the special teams is such a nitpicky thing from a whole 100-point view or 100-foot view, but I mean that's really the stuff that could lose you game. That's in the Super Bowl, letting Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs return one. That's fumbling on a crucial drive that could set up, pulling a Ty Montgomery in the fourth quarter. That could end up hurting you. So let's talk a little bit about these wild card games here, and then we'll probably wrap it up and throw it to our interview with MK Burgess. Big B, let's hear your prediction for Tampa Bay Washington football team score prediction, because I think we know who the winner will be, but what's your score prediction and who? What is the turning point of the game? I'll throw a hard one on you.
You always throw these hard ones at me, and then I sit here for 20 minutes trying to think of it. Let's go 23-17, and the turning point is a Chase Young sack on Tom Brady.
All right. So wait, who's winning?
The football team. Come on now.
Okay.
I'm going football team upset. Let's go.
I love it. I mean, all these NFC games might be like really boring just because they're all pretty unfair matchups. I'll take LA over Seattle, and I'm going to say Seattle wins 24-10. Turning point is the kickoff because the Rams have no chance. Maggie, I guess, we'll see. What do you think happens in Saints Bears?
45-17. I think the Bears should just not bother coming. Yeah. But at a turning point is Alvin Kamara should be back on Sunday. So he has a hat trick against the Bears.
Yeah. Get 9 touchdowns in 2 games here for Alvin Kamara. Yeah, it's going to be interesting week of football. I just hope I'm like Paul Rudd. I believe that's who was at the NFC Championship game last year wearing an NFL hat. I'm just rooting for a good officiated game of football. Maggie, thanks so much for joining us on this wild card weekend.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. We will throw it to our second part of this interview. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this first part. Go Pack Go.